Fight!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the final video of the series here. And as you can see, this is kind of what we've gotten to so far. And I think for this video, I'm going to first just continue on with the various improvements. So I'm going to start with the actual T-Rex and just kind of go through, and I've decided I want it to feel more tangible. Like once it's printed, I want it to feel like maybe it was sculpted in clay. So I'm going to try to kind of achieve that effect throughout the model, throughout all the characters. And then, but I'm going to kind of compartmentalize my efforts here. I'm going to start with the dinosaur, with the T-Rex, and then with the caveman, and then move on to refining the base. And I'm just going to spend like 20-25 minutes doing all those improvements, and then afterwards I'm going to combine it all together and send it off to Chidubox and get it ready for 3D print. So also going to do a fair amount of refinements to the hair, because the hair is still very blobby and mushy looking. So anyways, thanks again for joining me, and if you like what you see, again, like, comment, subscribe, and let's dive right into to these improvements. So I'm going to alt-left click on the T-Rex, and for a lot of this I might kind of do a time lapse and like speed up the video a little bit, because I might get into the weeds a good amount here. So I think for now, I like a lot of things I'm seeing is just like there's no ligament or tendon information in the legs of the T-Rex. So and wrinkles like this. This leg is just generally very kind of blobby. And I'm just using my clay build-up brush. I think that's my favorite brush for making things kind of feel like they're tangible, or they have like a clay kind of feel. I'm going to step down my subdivision level so I have a better influence with my smooth. And yeah, just as this leg kind of lifts up, you're going to see a little bit of fold of skin. Everyone knows that with the T-Rex, they get this little fold of skin. Everyone knows that. So just common knowledge. And again, remembering that we are symmetrical with our topology, so we could just hit X and do this symmetrically. And just remembering though that sometimes things work and sometimes things don't. Obviously, you wouldn't want that wrinkle right there with the leg as it's extended, so you might want to just turn off symmetry for that work. It's obviously twice the effort, but I think it really helps to turn symmetry off sometimes and just wing it. So as I'm doing these wrinkles, I'm going to hold off on using symmetry. Or if I'm saying symmetry just so much. It's one of those days where everything just sounds weird when you say it. There you have those. I decided too, I'm not going to do scales. Scales is just going to be a bit overkill. Maybe for another series I might do that just for instruction purposes, show you how to make your own alphas or make your own brushes, your own scale brushes. But for this one, I don't think I'm going to get that crazy. Just turn on solo, get everything else out of the way. Give him kind of like a palm. Pad here. Again, Damien Sander brush is my go-to for all this kind of detailing. Probably turn on symmetry for this work. And then I think for the bulk of the video, I'm just going to turn on some music and do a little bit of a time lapse here, so you can just take in all the detailing, and hopefully you're doing this on your end, but if not, you can just have a nice, relaxing watch. One of my favorite brushes too, to give it that kind of carved, etched kind of feel, is the H polish. So you just kind of turn down the actual brush size, the draw size, and you can adjust your focal shift too to be a little bit larger, and it'll give you a nice sharp kind of feel. Whoops. Make sure you're on H polish, and then you can see it kind of gives that nice. Yeah, it feels like it's been carved, or it feels like it's kind of like you're sculpting in like a Chavant type clay or something. Just really going to push the knuckle detail, give those nice angles. Remember to emphasize your detailing so that it comes through when you print it smaller at scale. Just really crank that detail. Okay, so overall I think the T-Rex is feeling a little more tangible, a little more sculpted. We've added some nice improvements, some nice detailing. I think the final step is let's just draw our masks for our stripes and then do a mesh extract for those. Be sure to refer to your reference for that. Make sure the symmetry is on. Okay, I'm going to come over to Subtool and down here do an extract. 0.002 is okay for now. It's probably going to be a little bit too thick. Yes, definitely too thick. So let's scroll that down to 0.004. See what that does for us. Okay, that's good. Let's accept and turn off solo mode, see how things are looking. And then from here, we also don't want to have like these sharp edges on our extract. So let's go through and smooth those out best we can, and then we'll do an inflate. I kind of like the idea that these pop out a little bit, you know, in the for the print. So I'm just doing an inflate now. Yes, pretty cool. Don't know if I like some of the shapes going on. Come back here to Dynamesh and run a Dynamesh on that and just kind of clean up some of this stuff. Get rid of these little odd ones. Do modify topology, delete hidden, do an inflate, and come over here and clean this guy up. These guys are looking pretty dumb. Let's get rid of them. Come back to this guy, I'll left click over, and then we'll just have to, without symmetry on, just redraw these guys real quick. Okay, then come back to Subtool, run another extract, and hit accept. Clear your mask, and just smooth those guys out again. And then we'll just be sure to combine all of these stripes down into one Subtool for now. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to subdue those just a tiny bit. They're maybe a little too extruded out, so we'll do a deflate on those and just kind of bring them in. So it's basically just, it's going to be nice to, we accidentally had symmetry on apparently. Let's do a polygroup auto group and then just get rid of these guys. These weird ones that we don't want. Eventually it's all going to be combined together anyway, so we're good there. Delete hidden. And then now we get some beautiful rainbow stripes on this guy. Alright, going to do a save. And I think that's good for our T-Rex for now. Clear mask. Yeah, I think the T-Rex is looking good. Now let's move on to the hair up here. And just run some more using the Damian sander, just kind of carve in some more details here. And just run the length of these guys so they don't look so mushy. Just holding Alt to pop out. What's going on? Oh, that's the loincloth. There's the hair, this guy. I think I'm going to combine the hair chunks together. Just making sure that I have each one of those as their own polygroup, so I can control W on that to polygroup all, and then just merge that down in this way. If I have those as separate polygroups, I can always split them out, use a split hidden, and break them out again if I need to. I don't suspect that I will, but just in case, as a precaution, I can have that extra control over these guys as I'm refining. So using the move topological, that's how I'm kind of grabbing these chunks without manipulating neighboring geometry. So I think the hair's looking a lot better, definitely a lot more detail in there, so I'm going to hit save. And I think from here I'm going to do a little bit of refining on his muscle structure and then add some of those kind of clay kind of feel to his detailing, and then we'll move on to the base. As you can see, like, our geometry is getting so high res that our smooth tool is not, our smooth brush is not having a huge effect. You can always switch over to smooth stronger. One thing I did too on this character that I actually forgot, I thought I clicked record, but I wasn't actually recording, is I fixed his wrist area. Before there was this like awkward bump going like that, and then I decided I didn't like that. I kind of wanted it to be just a straight line that kind of went down to his thumb. And his hand probably needs to just kind of be like, to have more of a grip on the neck of the dinosaur or the T-Rex. So I think I'm going to pull that guy down just a little bit, stretch, oops, turn off symmetry, and then bring these fingers up. If they're going to get squashed a bit, we can always inflate those back out after. In fact, we want to rotate his entire arm over just a little, like that. And then his wrist back out this way. And then maybe his thumb, curl that guy like around that. So just going to smooth those out to give those a nice round volume, inflate them back out, and then I'll have to resculpt in that the knuckle detail. We never did carve in some fingernails, so we'll probably do that too, because they may show up. I think the hand's already looking a little more dynamic. Middle finger's getting stretched in a weird way. Oops, it looks like I did an interesting, I was masking, looks like I ruined the leg here, so clean that guy up. Be sure to step up your subdivisions so that you can get the detail at each subdivision level, because sometimes when it's introduced at lower subdivs, it'll still calculate it in the higher. So just make sure that you're stepping up and cleaning stuff out. Turn down my intensity, it's way too high. I think this leg muscle kind of comes back a little bit further. Let's add some toe knuckles. And then like I mentioned, we will add, we'll see if we can get the toenail detail, the nail detail to come through. So I'm gonna hit symmetry and make sure that symmetry is lined up on both sides of that, so we can only have to do the work once. So turn up our intensity and just kind of carve those in. So the ends I'm holding Alt coming out. This pinky is huge. Squashed. So you can go over here. It's like an OK over here. Looks like we did not have symmetry on for our knuckle work, so we'll have to do that again. I find that I always favor the left side of my models. That's where I always like to work, even though symmetry in Zbrush works from right to left, which is always kind of a headache because I always have to do my mirror and welds. I don't know why I do that. Well, it's looking better. Just remember this guy's going to be printed fairly small to save on the resin, so let's see if we can get this to work on the fingernails. I got symmetry on, as you can see up there, using the Damien standard. Alt. And even with symmetrical modeling, sometimes things just get pushed and stretched so much that it just doesn't work. So you're just going to have to suck it up and do twice the work. It didn't take too much time, so we'll just redo these guys because they just were really wonky looking. Okay, so now let's get a good grip on this dino. This forearm's looking a little long. Let's get that down a little. And let's run over this guy with H polish and see if we can get a carved feel to look natural. Just trying to follow the contours of the muscles. With that, I'm not just going blanket all over the place with it. You can also use the Damien sander to achieve that feel too, just by holding Alt as you're going across. Okay, it's always kind of scary, but let's go to the other side and see what damage we've done. Okay, so it looks kind of weird, like, I don't know, it's kind of looking like some kind of coral or something. I don't know, it's kind of cool. It might look cool in the print too. Like, it'll still look kind of like grass. I think I'm fairly happy with it. One thing I'm going to do though is do a polygroup auto group, and then it'll get rid of all the little tiny floaty bits for the most part. See all these little janky things that are going on. So make sure that everything that you want is in the hidden layer, then invert your selection, and then come over here to geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, so get those out of the way. And then it might take a few Dynameshes to kind of clear things up. Maybe just do another inflate too. I think, you know, once it's all painted green and everything, it'll look somewhat like vegetation underneath there. I think for the rocks, they need to have a little bit of noise. Use the noise brush and just run that over these guys. And then rerun my Dynamesh with polish turned on. Crank the resolution. So there's a little bit of subtle variations in those. Maybe run the Damien standard over them a little bit. Awesome. Okay. Let's do a little bit of dirt work here. Some dirt work, as they say. What's the nudge gonna do for us? Nudge is kind of fun. One thing I really like is the crumble brush. Oops. C, crumble. And then where's that guy? Right here, crumble. And then just run it over the surface a little bit. It makes it look kind of a little more jagged, a little more like rock, but it can do some interesting things too. Turn off polish and just Dynamesh this guy like 300 or something. We try the noise again. I don't want to get too textural because then it goes outside the stylization of our character. Our character is, you know, fairly smooth, and so I don't want to get too crazy with that. And one thing I might actually do is just merge all of the base stuff together into one, and then I'm going to scale that all down just a little bit. I think it's just a little bit too big. And make sure that my foot isn't obscured too much, and get that stuff kind of out of the way of the foot so we can see that thing's stomping it down. Using the clay build up, just kind of holding Alt and pushing the stuff out of the way. I want to get that classic T-Rex footprint in there. Just smashing that rock. Okay, cool. One thing I'm going to do too is just rotate these claws out the best I can. It's going to be tricky, but we'll probably just use snake hook and pull them out that way for now. So just snake hooking those out and then smoothing. And then we'll step up our subdivision levels and just reshape those. Rotate those in the other direction a little. Awesome, step up. Okay, now let's cut in some of this stuff. I wanted to build up. Okay, and I want a nice flat bottom to this, so I'm just going to use a clip curve and just flatten this guy out along the bottom. And I'm going to run the Dynamesh and see what happens. Looks like some of my stripes weren't smoothed out very well. Okay, so now it's nice and flat. You could come down here and draw a mask and just add some thickness to this. Kind of like the idea that the dirt looked kind of natural, the base looked like it was just sitting there. But it might be kind of cool too to have like a little rim around the base. We come down here to deformation and do like an inflate. It'll give us a nice little ridge. I don't think I like it, so let's undo that, and I'll just go back to kind of what it was naturally. I like this the best, I think. So I'm going to leave it like this, and let's start combining everything down so that we can get stuff ready for print. So we'll start with our caveman, just start merging everything down. If you're worried, you can Control W, polygroup your objects before you merge. Just remember, this is going to get really heavy poly count wise. So you're going to have to, at some point, just run a Dynamesh on it. It's going to average the poly count throughout. So now if I hit solo, this guy is all combined down. And just make sure, take one good look over everything, make sure things aren't looking too crazy. We're still going to be in Dynamesh space, so it's still going to be perfectly sculptable after we run it. But just take a look, rotate around. I think, yeah, I'm going to add like this little knot in the wood here. Maybe add some bark striations. Go all the way up here. Cool. Okay, so the spear's looking good. Everything looks good. So I'm going to just run a Dynamesh and make sure that everything's combined down. 648 is fine for now. And we are now in Dynamesh. And this is a good opportunity to version up, because we made some pretty significant adjustments here, so make sure you version up. Let's fix the shape of the shoulder just a little. I think I'm going to round it out. I like that better. And run my H polish. Okay, cool. So this guy's looking good. I'm going to save and then move down to our T-Rex. We're just going to get rid of our folder for now. I don't think we need that anymore. Let's only have a few things to combine with our T-Rex. Just merge that guy down, merge down. And just remember, we're now committed. We're outside of our Z-Remesh state at this point. We've lost our subdivision levels, so hopefully your pose is kind of locked in place at this stage. Geometry, Dynamesh, crank it to 4 something and hit Dynamesh on that. Okay, so everything's Dynamesh together. Fix the little point on that stripe there. And kind of push this guy in. A little bit weird. Dynamesh. That's looking better. Okay, taking a look at everything. Let's add some anatomy, some structure right here, this guy. His skin is kind of bleeding down the back of his heel, so I'm not digging that too much. Okay, this guy's all combined down, the base is combined, so now we have consolidated everything into three subtools. Going to hit save. Whoops, we somehow, again, lost our save function. So we'll just do a save as and switch over to our directory and version up. Want to have a good amount of hard drive space when you're doing Zbrush. These files can get pretty large. All right. I think now we're committed. So right now what I like to do is, because I'm going to combine everything together, I like to just say things like, I'll version up to 14, but I'll add here like combined, so that I understand what I've done in this version. So I'm just going to combine everything. Actually, I'm just going to combine him and, well, how am I going to print this? So what I think I'll do, I think I'm going to print him separate, all these three pieces as separate pieces. So one thing I need to do is run a subtraction from the T-Rex to our caveman, so that he fits right on top there. It's a painful way to sit, man. It's so painful. Let's make an adjustment there real quick before we do this. I think I'm just gonna make my life a little easier, and just his life a little easier, I should say. And clean that up just a little. Just try to flatten this guy out. Make some room for the feet. So we don't want the feet to just be sucking in too much, or the hand. Okay, and we want the T-Rex to be the subtractive mesh, and I'm going to do a deform and then do an inflate of, like, we'll see, we'll try 5 for now. We'll do another 5. Well, so let's undo that, and we'll do 15 total for the inflate. And that might be a little bit high. Let's just do 10 for the inflate on this guy, and then we'll if you hit shift shift F on this to show your polyframe. If you hit go to polygroups and go to group as Dynamesh sub, it'll turn to a white color, indicating that's going to be a subtractive mesh. Make sure that you click this little guy here to make it a subtractive mesh, and then we'll just make sure that this is Dynamesh is turned on this subtool, and then we'll merge down to the T-Rex, and then we'll run a Dynamesh, and it's going to subtract the T-Rex from our caveman character, so that he should, in theory, just kind of plop right down on top of the back of the T-Rex and just fit right into place. So it's going to take a second to run. Usually only takes like a maximum of like maybe a minute or so. It's usually pretty quick. Okay, so I did pause, but that whole operation only took like maybe a minute. So if we hit solo and then we look at our character, we'll see that his foot was definitely cut into way too much. So let's go ahead and undo that. And while we have, we can just Control-Shift left click on this guy, and let's just bring the foot out just a little bit, so it's not penetrating into the T-Rex body so far. And so we'll get that detail. Okay, that's probably perfect. Maybe bring the thumb up just a little bit too. And take a look at the other foot. See how he's doing. Alright, so now let's just do the same thing. We'll just rerun that. Okay, sweet. So I think that's good for him. And the only other issue is, like, hopefully we can easily figure out, you know, where he sits on the back. I don't think it'll be an issue. I think we'll be able to figure that out pretty easy, making sure that he's in the right place with his leg against this guy. And the only other issue, if we alt left click onto our T-Rex, is if we want to print this pretty big. Most printers don't have a huge print volume, so you might want to consider breaking up the T-Rex into a few chunks, like 2 chunks. And I think where I would do that is I would split it right here along the leg down here. And then, I mean, the seam is always fixable. You can always use some epoxy putty or whatever, or some Sculpey, and just clean up the seam as it comes down here, which I think I might actually have to do. I might have to just split this guy up. So let's give that a go. So I'll hit Control-Shift and switch over to my Select Lasso, and then just start lassoing kind of where I want to do the split. Oops, we missed that top part right there. And just make sure that it might help to have double-sided turned on for this part of the process. And it's going to be just a matter of changing your camera angle and kind of trying to get. You could do a mask too for this. Oops. And just make another poly group too, which is probably what we should have done. I think I want that seam to kind of follow the contours of the leg and stuff, just so it's easier to. Do we have symmetry on? What's going on here? Okay. Yeah, I think I actually might do that. Hit Control W on that guy, and then I'll just mask pen the stuff that I don't want to be in there. Okay. Hit Control W with the mask on. And then, oops, what did I do? See how things are looking. So now I can just Control-Shift left click on the yellow portion. And let's come in here and do an auto group too, just to make sure that all the little bits, the little floaty bits are off of this guy. And I think that's going to be the best place for our split here. So let's go ahead and do a save real quick, just because it's going to be a pretty drastic procedure. And then Control W to polygroup this guy, Control W to polygroup this guy, and then if you just make them both visible, you come in here to Dynamesh, turn on groups, and then just run a Dynamesh, and that'll create like an inner shell for the, or not shell, but that'll split it for us. So now if I come in here, I now have this guy like so. And one thing that might be good, even though it's going to be fairly easy to fit this guy together. It's gonna work fine, but to be safe, we'll make a little keyhole. So if we come in here to append, and then do an append, and with the cube, real quickly, we'll just do a deform, come to taper, turn it on to Y, turn off X and Z, and then make it taper at the top towards Y, and then kind of flatten it out a little bit. And we'll run a Dynamesh on there, and then scale, and get this guy into place right here. This just makes 100% for certain that everything is going to lock into place as we want. So let's smooth and round the edges just a little bit too. And it might actually cause a problem now that I think about it. We'll make it small enough that should be fine. Okay, so hit Control W to make sure everything that everything's in its own subtool. And then on here, I'm going to do let's do a split hidden real quick because we have our torso in the other group. So we'll just do a split hidden, and we'll move our legs down to the key, and then do a merge. So now we have our key in there, and then if I run a Dynamesh, it'll just Dynamesh that all together conveniently. I think we had groups turned on, so let's turn off groups, and then rerun that. And then one thing you're going to want to do from here is we're now going to duplicate this guy. We're going to inflate this out because what happens when the resin is cured is it expands ever so slightly, so your parts aren't going to fit together properly. So make sure that you do an inflate on your subtracted parts. So if I turn that to the subtraction, do a deform, inflate that out by, I think we decided it was like 10 was the best. And then making sure that Dynamesh is turned on this guy, which it is. And then we'll turn off groups. We don't want groups anymore. We'll merge this guy down to the legs for our subtraction, and then run a Dynamesh. Okay. Cool, so now we see our keyhole in there. If I turn on solo, or off solo, just view these guys. You can see there's going to be a tiny little gap here, but once it prints, it's not going to be nearly as noticeable. There is definitely going to be some cleanup, probably. You know, we're probably going to have to put some clay in there, Sculpey, some epoxy putty, and just fill that gap when we reassemble our character after the fact. And fingers crossed that things will just slide together. I don't see any undercuts necessarily. I think that things should work. Might have a little issue with this guy up here, but it might just snap together really nicely. But we'll just we'll chance it. So from here, let's just hit save. We'll rename everything to Dino Torso, and then Dino Legs. And then Caveman is fine. Caveman. And we'll rename this Control W everything, make sure it's all in the same polygroup base. And what I like to do is, because when you save your subtool, it renames this top subtool, just do an append, slap that sphere to the top, and now that is going to be just a just inflate that, deflate that in. And that's going to be just for naming purposes only. So we'll just hit save again. Primal combined, and now from here, all that's left to do is to run our decimation on all of the visible subtools. We'll turn everything on that we want to have decimated, and decimation is just going to drop our poly count for us, so it makes slicing quicker. And so we'll come over here to Z plugin, go to decimation master, do a pre-process all, and just wait. This process takes a little bit longer, probably I'm guessing around 3 or 4 minutes or so, so I'm going to pause. Okay, so I just pre-processed all of those. Now I'm going to come back to Z plugin and do a decimate all. So this is actually going to perform the decimation at this point. Awesome. Okay, so now everything should be decimated to a reasonable That's like 1 million, just over a million, 1.2, that's fine. So if everything's below, you know, around 2 million or lower, it should be fine in Chidu Box. And then scope creep is happening big time. So I like, you know, we have some ground vegetation here, we have some rocks and dirt and stuff, but I wanted some actual plants. I think that's gonna help a lot. So one thing I've opted to do is I found this insert mesh IMM plant Zbrush thing that you can buy on ArtStation. So I just bought that. It was like $6 or whatever. So I just I downloaded this, and then all you have to do is when you download your insert mesh files, you come over here to brushes and go to load brush, and then I put mine here, brushes, vegetation, plant, and then it looks like it has all these different types of plants. So we'll just load these up real quick. And obviously these aren't going to have thickness, but if you just click on one of those and then drag out, it'll put some awesome like plants in there. And so we just have to find one that I think is going to work for us. You know, that's relatively printable. Like that's pretty rad. Just that grass there. Even then this one here, this is nice. And so what we're going to have to do is just, it might help for us to split this into its own subtool for now, and then we'll just do, right now we'll do a Z modeler and we'll do an extrude on it to give it some thickness so it'll actually print, and then maybe just subdivide that bad boy, and maybe I'll do it a couple times to get rid of the faceting, and then we'll just merge that back down. And we don't have to go through and, you know, rerun our Dynameshes or anything like that. We're just going to try it like this. In fact, I might inflate it just a little bit more, even just give it a little more thickness to be safe. And you could just, you know, control, holding control, move this guy around and like duplicate it. So that's just one way you can take, you know, a mesh and make it 3D print ready, and just kind of spruce up this base a little bit. And I think I'm gonna actually look for some more. Let's look for, let's load up the next one and see what that guy has. So, looks like I already did my merge down, so we'll just Control Shift left click tap on the vert on this group and then do a split hidden. So now we're in our own group. But make sure that your base is visible. And then we'll just start dragging stuff out. So that's not going to work. I don't think any of those are going to work very well. So we'll try to load up C and see what that one has. I'm looking for some big like pothos or some big leafy plants. For now, I think we're good on grasses. Load this guy. Let's try some of these. Ooh, that one's nice, like a nice fern. Like a banana tree type thing. Load up E. Oh, here we go. This is good stuff right here. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay. Let's do that one, but with less. We'll do bigger leaves. Oops. Yeah, that's freaking sweet looking. Switch over to this guy. It's lovely. And we'll try this guy. I don't want anything with like stems. I just want the leaves to be nice and easily extrudable so we can give those guys thickness. So sometimes it's super awkward. Control Shift, like grabbing a point, and then I don't know why it's not working. There we go. Hit Control W to get those in their own group, and then we'll do our same Z modeler, give it some thickness, extrude those guys out, and then subdivide them a good amount. Actually, what we're gonna have to do, we'll do a split hidden on them, and then hit Control D several times. And now we've got some awesome, like, leafy type. Some of these are kind of weird. Let's get rid of this guy. So what we'll do is we'll do a delete lower, and then we'll do a polygroup auto group, and hopefully that's just, there we go. Sweet. Now we can just get rid of this guy and the stem. That's interesting. There's like a. Just come here to modify topology and delete hidden from here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Oh, okay. So there was a backside to it. Hopefully we still have that. We'll do a delete hidden, get rid of those guys, make sure that our other ones still have their back, they have thickness. And let's just run a Dynamesh on those. Get those without polish. Cool. So now we've got some fun, interesting leafy plants in there. And we'll merge these guys all down now. Merge our plants down in the same layer. And we'll just let's run a Dynamesh. Actually, let's first modify those so they're not intersecting our grasses weirdly. Cool. Yeah, that looks sweet. Okay, now we'll do a pre-process current. Does that decimate these plants down? Okay, and then we'll just decimate those down. And one thing we did forget to do was to run our subtraction from our T-Rex, our foot, down into our base itself. So we're gonna have to do that real quick, and we're gonna have to jump back into Dynamesh. I know it's kind of frustrating, but we got to make sure that we do that so that the T-Rex will stand right on the base like we'd like. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we're in Dynamesh mode again on this guy, and let's go ahead and make this a subtractive mesh. Go down to poly group is Dynamesh sub, and then we will gladly merge this guy down, and then run our Dynamesh to get that foot imprinted into that dirt. Cool. We turn on solo, we should be able to see a foot that's kind of imprinted in there. It's kind of working. I think that's going to work okay. Might be a little bit tricky with the nails the way they are to get those in there, so I might just grab my snake hook and kind of just pull those out just a little. Just making that work better. And then yeah, I think that guy's going to stand okay. And the other thing I was going to do, I was thinking about, because I was worried about the weight of everything on this guy breaking things. So I'm going to possibly have to run a wire up. We're going to have to do this anyway to connect this guy to the base. So I'm going to append a cylinder and turn off solo mode, turn on everything except for our, turn off everything except for our cylinder. And then I'm going to subdivide this guy a few times. And I'm just going to subtract this so that when we slide a rod up into the foot through the base, it'll have like a nice, secure deal that's like, actually might be good to like rotate it like that. Turn on transparency. So we're going to have this basically like a hanger wire or some kind of wire that runs up into that just for durability. Let's see how far up we can get that in there. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this guy because we want two of them, because we want to subtract this from both our foot. And unfortunately, in order to do this, we're going to have to jump back into Dynamesh again on this guy. I don't typically like to do this because sometimes you can lose a little bit of detail when you're going back and forth from decimation to Dynamesh. But make sure that you're in Dynamesh here, and our base is already in Dynamesh. And the positioning of these things matter, so just make sure that the base is above the thing you want to subtract from, and the tail is above the thing you want to subtract from. And then make sure, again, verify Dynamesh is turned on, and then merge that guy down. And that's going to put a hole in the base. Now if I turn on solo, you can see there's now a hole that goes all the way through, which is exactly what we want. And then we'll do the same with the dyno legs. Okay, and now there's a hole going up into there. And so now we're going to have to just turn these two guys on, and then just rerun our, let's save real quick. Actually, I'm going to do a save next. Whenever I jump into decimation, I like to version up my file. It's fairly destructive, so I don't want to. Just DC for decimated version 16, just save that guy. Turn off solo mode, and then we'll just pre-process all that are visible. It's going to pre-process the legs and the base itself. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the decimate. Cool, so our base and our legs are now decimated, and then I just need to merge our foliage down to the base. So we'll just come down here, drag these guys down, and then merge down to that. Okay, so now that's all combined together. Awesome, we got our cool plants. And transparency, is that leaf going to be in the way of getting our, we'll probably be able to get it there. Cool. Alright, so we've got some cool plants, some vegetation, the guys are running. Turn everything on and take a look. It's gonna be cool. I'm excited to get this guy printed. So we'll just do a save now from here and get our parts exported. In order to do that, I'm gonna make sure that everything's polygrouped into one group. So hit Control W on each of our subtools. Control W, and then just start to export our prints, and I like to make a 4_obj folder, and then just hit OK, save that. Our Dino torso export. Just remember it's going to inherit the name of the subtool. Saving, and now it's time to save everything, and then let's dive into Chidubox. Okay, so I've got Chidubox open here, and for whatever reason it like flashes a black screen on occasion on my Cintiq. I don't know why it does that, but if you're seeing that, that's what's going on. So we'll jump over to our OBJs, and then I think I'm going to start with just the dino for now, dinosaur. Just do the legs and the upper, and I haven't scaled this guy to any real world scale yet, which I completely spaced doing. Usually I do that on the Zbrush side. In fact, let's dive back to Zbrush and get that taken care of. So I'll do an append. Just append any shape, it doesn't matter which one, and then I'll just import my scale cube, which I have a 6-inch scale cube. So if I hit F to frame that up, you can see that's where that guy's at. Now if I hold Control and mask this guy, and then turn on my all subtools right here, select all subtools, and then just scale that up, I can kind of scale that based on each one of these polygons represents 1 inch. The scaling can be a little bit wonky. It does kind of a weird snap. I'm gonna turn on transparency so I can see a little better. Let's say I want this guy total to be 6 inches, which I think is good. Pretty good size, maybe a tad bigger. One thing I find that, because it does this snap, I don't know why it does that, I hate it. If you zoom in, you can get a smoother scale. Like, if you zoom into your pivot, and then it doesn't snap as largely. Yeah, I won't do that. Yeah, just leave it right there. That's about just over 6 inches. I think that's perfect. Yep, so his head will just be over 6 inches. Okay, so I'm going to delete this guy now and then just re-export my models real quickly. Okay, man. Come on, baby. You can do it. Hope it's not going to crash here. Okay, so I had to skip ahead because I did have a crash, but we've got things back in scale to where we want, so just rerunning those exports. I only cursed 17 times. So that's good for me. So, caveman. Come on, baby, you can do it. He did it. Torso. Cool. Okay, so now they are all exported, they're scaled properly, and we're gonna dive into Chitubox now. If you like this this painting back here, it's Jeremy Geddes. It's Jeremy is Painting on the Instagram. This stuff is awesome. So I'll start with the dinosaur because T-Rex is gonna take pretty much the whole build platform. It'll be huge. Maybe a little too huge. And then we'll select all and just rotate these guys. We want the contact points to be in like roughly lower vis areas. And select, get the tail out of the way there. And I think that's probably pretty good. You could, if you wanted to, try to keep the contacts in this little area, but I don't know that I like that. I want this to fit together really nicely up here, so maybe we'll just continue. We'll just rotate them down this way. I'm fine to have contact points below. And it's not like they're a deal breaker. They're so small or so minimal that it's not like they're a huge deal. We might be able to fit something else on here. Let's see if we can fit our caveman on this print too. And we just have to do 2 prints total. I'll be kind of surprised if we can. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. It's not gonna work. Nope. Deal breaker. Hey, look at that. I think it's gonna work. Cool. Alright, awesome. It's going to take a whole liter of resin, but it's going to look sick. That's going to look so sweet. I'm very excited. Okay, so I think that's good. None of those are intersecting each other. I'm going to select all and come up here. Now this is the moneymaker right here. This is something my buddy told me just to do my shelling in Chitubox. I was shelling in Zbrush before, like a tenderfoot. And this is so much quicker and more effective. So wall thickness is 0.085. I might even be able to go thinner than that. It's going to make an infill structure with the grid 3D, which is probably good. Probably going to mitigate failed prints. And just hit start. And it's going to calculate that for all 3 of those pieces. Usually it only takes like under 30 seconds or so. And then it'll give you a quick preview of how that's looking after it's done. So now it's showing our hollow process and the infill. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to save us on resin because these parts are absolutely huge. Going to move the tail up just a little. It's a little bit close to the edge there. And then from here we do a select all and then just come over to our supports. So all. And I'm just using the free version of Box. It's a little bit buggy, but it does the job. Not sure if the paid version is any better. Okay, so we're getting a tiny bit of red here on our caveman. So let's see if we can get him. Move this guy over a good amount. Not a good amount, a little bit. And looks like our supports are intersecting. This is really tight, I'm not gonna lie. Let's try to rotate. And now his arm is getting intersected. I think a safe thing is just to get rid of him for now and just print our T-Rex. So we'll just start there. And another thing you can do is as your build plate goes down and pulls, and cures each layer as it's pulling the resin up and out, as it's curing everything. Sometimes resin can get trapped in these if they're hollow, and so it has an option to create a hole. And I usually like to put those in like the keyhole areas, and then resin, you can get the resin out. I don't know if it's super necessary. In fact, I wanted to try something too with the shell. I think I'm actually going to. And then it'll actually make a plug over here, but I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to select these guys, and before I do anything like that, I'm just going to reshell, but I'm going to turn it off. See if I can get it to print without the infill structure. It's going to save us on resin. It might error, it might cause issues, but we're going to test it out and see. Looks like it still had the infill. I'm not sure why that's doing that. I think that might be a bug. You know what? We'll just leave it. Let's just leave it for now and look around. And I'm not going to worry about putting a hole anywhere else. And I think from here it's just a matter of saving. Always save. And I'm going to do a 5. Print, save, Dino, 1, and go grab my flash drive. So my printer is actually printing right now, so it's reading the flash. I can't pull it out, but what you would do is just hit slice. And usually this is a fairly quick process as well. And as far as like actual print settings, I have my settings set to the TH72 from Resi1. And that's what like all of my supports, my cure times, all of that stuff, my exposure, all of that stuff is set to for the TH72. And I like that resin personally because it's super durable, a very tough resin. And then my support structure is actually, I'm using a CFG, like a config file from Uncle Jesse on YouTube, and he does a lot of 3D printing videos and research and stuff in that regard, so he's awesome. Check out Uncle Jesse, and he provides all of his config files too for download, so you can just grab those. So right now, this is our sliced models, and you can go down and check out each slice if you'd like. And then from here, you just do a save and then save out your file, and it's going to make a CTB file, which is different from your actual Chidubox working file. So just be aware of that. The CTB is what goes on the flash drive, and then when you're saving your Chidubox file to work on, to add supports and stuff, that's a different file that you want to just save on your local. It can be a little bit confusing, but you'll get it figured out. I'm just going to save this guy. But I'm not going to go through the process. It's pretty much the same process for all the prints. So I'm going to get all the others shelled and supported and sliced. And then in the next video, I'll just show you the results of the print. So this video is getting pretty long, so I'm going to cut it here. But thanks for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll get this thing assembled. And it's going to be, I'm hopefully going to get to painting it here pretty soon. And I'll be sure to document that process for y'all so we can learn and figure this all out. So thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next video.